That's my Randy Newman impersonation. Hey, hello, welcome everybody to the fourth bonus podcast of Diary of Doom. I'm Dylan, as always, doing my fucking dumb thing out here. In this episode, this bonus episode of Diary of Doom, we're going to be talking about the band Earthless, which I'm sure everybody fucking knows about. They're kind of a cornerstone of the stoner rock, stoner metal subgenre of music. I fucking love them. I've been lucky enough to see them, and to do that, I've brought along my long-time podcasting friend Mike Crandall from the Jim's BBU podcast, which I'm also a co-host of. So welcome officially to Diary of Doom.
Holy shit, man! This is an honor, and I'm surprised that you'd actually have me on this thing, because I mean, I'm not a doom metal aficionado by any stretch of the imagination, but I am quite honored to be on this episode with you.
Well, as I like to say, these episodes, I like to bring on people who I have a good rapport with, and I would say that we have a pretty good rapport, considering we've actually been doing podcasting for quite a long time, actually, and we've known each other for a very long time.
I mean, we're 6+ years into doing our other podcast together, and we've known each other for longer than that. It's man, this is great. I'm glad to always talk about music. Music is I feel like something that is universally accepted. Like you may not necessarily like all the same shit, but man, you can find some commonalities in music with everybody.
Absolutely. And that was I don't know if that was necessarily something that we actually had in common, like when we met, because we come from I would say fairly disparate lives. You're a bit older than me, and we kind of met in a weird way. So I guess for anybody who doesn't, which is probably most people, I haven't talked about Jim's BBQ that much on Diary of Doom, but for anyone who wants to that's subscribed to this and listening, which by the way, thank you. As of this time, we don't have any other subscribers besides August, so we'll just give him another shout out. So Mike and I got to know each other because we're both Kevin Smith fans, which is, given the, proclivity of, I'm from New Jersey. I eventually became a fucking deadbeat pothead from New Jersey. It's not really that uncommon or weird. And Kevin Smith, much in the way that I think a lot of heavy metal communities and other subgenres of, rock and roll have grown over the years. It's a pretty tight-knit fan base. There were a lot of fan meetups. People went to the movie premieres together. People went to signings. In fact, Mike and I were actually at an event, and Mike was so antisocial at the time, he made efforts to avoid interacting with most people that day. I remember when you first told me that story. That was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's tight-knit to a point, I feel. There's definitely some people that over the years I got to know, and yourself included, that we became really good friends with. But it takes a lot for me to let somebody in, to my circle. I don't know, man. That's just the way I am. I'm glad to have met you and share a lot of great times with you, through Kevin Smith stuff and beyond that. That's one of the great things about this and about podcasting with you and doing things like this is just all these other things that we've gotten to share over the years, trips we've gone on and experiences we've had. It's always a great time getting to hang with Dylan.
Yeah, and so we were just like bullshitting at an event one day and whatever, and Mike essentially was like, oh, I've been like kind of floating the idea of doing a podcast, and after we had enough kind of hangs, he was like, I'm gonna ask Dylan and this other guy Jim Edelston to do it, and we kind of just ran from there. And it's never really been like a major thing, we just kind of did it for fun and had some fun with it over the years, and we sort of like brought it to events, but not necessarily like as like any kind of, we weren't like trying to break news or something. We were just really there to have a good time and fuck around and kind of take advantage of some of the light opportunities we had. But it paved the way for a lot of fun times. We've gone on a lot of trips together. And and another thing that I think is fun about it, to get a little introspective, is just to like kind of think about how I was when we started, and just how so like firmly planted I was in so many of my opinions and ideas. Not that I haven't like lost any of my passion for things that I believe in or things that I like or anything like that. It's just I do feel like I've become a bit more loose than starting out, which I think is good, because I think if I had started doing Diary of Doom like at the time that we started Jim's BBQ, I don't know how good that would have come out.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, though, because I remember when we started the other podcast, that one of the things I had said to you is that I hoped that because you were still quite young at that point, and I mean you've definitely matured over that time, is that I hoped that the podcast would sort of be like a guidebook for you. And the statement you just made, I think, shows that it's come to fruition.
I think you're right.
Achievement unlocked. I was actually right about something. I'm thrilled now. I'm absolutely thrilled at this whole concept.
Man, that's fucking awesome. I kind of love that.
Yeah,
that's pretty great.
And I mean, it's in jest somewhat, but yeah, I mean, you've definitely grown up through, not necessarily through the podcast, but before our eyes, like through what we've done, and seeing you from early on, like back 10 years ago, all the way through now. It's amazing, and it's great to see, and it's great to see how you've grown, the Diarrhea Doom thing, and it's awesome, and that's why I'm so honored to be on this, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a cool ride so far. I'm really enjoying it. It sort of changed and kind of what it was originally, but that's okay. I think it's good to kind of keep an open mind to these things. And that's why with this, I hope people are enjoying. I know one person's enjoying it, but I hope that, there are other people that eventually like sign up and whatnot, so that they'll enjoy this and be able to appreciate that it's not just like the same metal people coming on. It's somebody else who might have a different perspective on things. It's always what it's been about for me, is like kind of having, not necessarily having different perspectives. That can get you down into a sketchy road sometimes. Having like unique perspectives and that are kind of outside the realm of normalcy for quote unquote, metal and whatnot. And, I just, as of the time of this recording, I just spoke with Sam Higgins, who's the one of the main dudes behind Cosmic Eye Brewing. This episode brought to you by Cosmic Eye Brewing, by the way. Drinking their 2000 Truths double rye IPA. It's really good, man. I mean, and they're out in Lincoln, Nebraska, so check them out. Sam was nice enough to send along some beer, which I really appreciate. But besides us, having a mutual interest in Kevin Smith and checking out his things and enjoying the sort of destination meetups and whatnot, another thing that we really bonded over was craft beer. And as obviously just talked to Sam, and his episode will be coming out pretty soon. Like as of the time of this recording, his episode was just coming out. And that's something that like we've been like super into, and you've been into like probably way longer than me. I don't remember being like super into it when I was able to start drinking, but you were like really, really into it. And I think that's something that Probably when I was young, I was like, "Hey, Mike, look, I'm drinking this. Do you think I'm cool yet?" And you're probably like, "Bro, calm down. Like, just whatever, enjoy it." We like to do a lot of beer shares. We like to bring stuff that's from our areas and bring them up if we're ever in town and hanging out and whatnot. But you were into it like a little bit before me. Inevitably and obviously, there's a huge crossover between craft beer and music. And that's definitely something that you've done yourself personally, just as like a fan on a solo consumption level. But I definitely think that there's a lot of things in your regular life where music and your two passions of yours, sort of craft beer and music, crossover. And I figured we would like chat about them because you're from Rochester, man. You're from like the fucking hippie craft beer central of the world.
Yeah, we've slowly become like one of those towns that is on the list with places like Portland, Oregon, and Asheville, North Carolina, and Burlington, Vermont. Rochester, New York has become like one of those meccas now that's like just not only places that are local and fiercely local, but other breweries have moved in on it too, which is just remarkable. Like a place in your neck of the woods, Other Half, is like not only has a place here in Rochester, but also in Buffalo. And it's remarkable, like what that's become here. It's ginormous, man. And it's great. It brings a whole lot of people into the area, and maybe helps out a lot of local businesses, not only the breweries but maybe hotels and like tourism and whatnot, and that's great. And then a lot of these places also, there's beer bars all around, and then places that do both, like beer and music. One of my favorite breweries in town is Three Heads Brewing, and oh my god, they've just been able to start doing music again, live music at their tasting room, and it's great. They do like usually 2 to 3 nights a week. It's awesome. I mean, a lot of jam band style stuff, and then I just went and saw like a jam bluegrass band like this past Saturday. That was awesome. Local band called the Honey Smugglers. They were awesome. It was great, man. And then, I mean, they do get some touring acts that come through occasionally, but yeah, it's phenomenal, man. And it's so great. It's so great to see the culture just grow, like with the beer and the music and everything just kind of almost melds into one.
That's something that I still like a lot about visiting Rochester, is that I still feel like everybody up there is very much into the craft beer scene. And because I felt like by the time I had kind of moved out of my home and then moved out to Brooklyn, I kind of felt like everybody in New Jersey, and maybe to some degree in New York, but probably not. But definitely kind of in New Jersey now, I felt like people were getting maybe a little bit tired of it. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and that threw a whole fucking monkey wrench into a lot of, businesses and whatnot. But it's definitely a scene that, much like Doom and Stoner, there's a lot of, it's kind of oversaturated. It's kind of like metal and, just sort of everything in general, actually. Like there's a lot of oversaturation of it. And it's been a little bit more difficult to kind of piece out like the better items throughout and whatnot. But like when you do find a good one, I feel like finding a cool, good craft brewery is a lot like finding a really good band, because you want to keep revisiting them and supporting them and seeing what they do with it, and I think Jason from Wake said, operating a band is kind of like running a pirate ship, which is kind of like running a brewery. It's like kind of a very similar thing. It's a lot of unpredictable moments. You don't know what's going to happen, but it can be very rewarding.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you can speak to that because you're pretty good friends with the guys at Three Heads. And
oh my God, man. Yeah. And I mean, they grew from basically being a contract brewed at another brewery that, I mean, like you mentioned it, like how like some of the stuff is ebbed and flowed. There's been quite a few places that haven't survived, but there's been a lot that have come up from the ashes or have come up from other, means to kind of fill in that gap. And it's just, it's amazing. But those guys, man, the hustle and the grind that they had to do to keep things rolling and keep things going during this whole pandemic. And, the big part of them was, they have this, and you've been to the room, they have this beautiful tasting room with a stage. And it's the day I walked in there, the first day I walked in there, I got chills just knowing what was coming, just knowing that the potential for all these bands to come through and play there, and the vibe that it was going to be, just knowing Dave and Jeff and Todd and Dan and all of these guys and what they were going to do with this room. It brought chills to me, like just knowing, oh my gosh, this is going to be such an amazing place and such a special place for this city, and how proudful we are of places like that. So it meant that, like I said, I went there this past Saturday. It'd been the first time I'd been to a show there in over 2 years.
Wow.
When I walked in the door and Jeff was working the door, and I looked at him, I went, this is the first show I've been to in over 2 years here. And he just looked at me and just gave me like one of those giant Jeff hugs.
Yeah.
And you've been on the recipient of one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, brother, he's like, I know. And he's like, this is just going to be so special. And it was such a great night. And like the band was just like, this is amazing. We haven't played here in over 2 years. And everybody was just like, just having such a great time. All the smiles on the faces and everything. That's the vibe that place brings. But man, did they have to hustle and grind during this whole, like these last couple of years, just to keep pushing beer out, not only out of the tasting room, which they were open the whole time, but also like to distributors and whatnot. It man, what a hustle they had to go through to keep things going and keep things rolling. It was remarkable to see.
Talking about them putting in the stage, Cosmic Eye's working on that too, and it would be, as Sam said, great because they're like kind of I think he said they're like the in between, like Omaha and Nebraska or something like that. Or I'm sorry, I think they're the in between like Minneapolis and Omaha, and like there's just like nothing in between. So it'd be like
I was going to say a whole lot of cornfields.
Yeah, it's like way out there. Three Heads rules. I can't really like reiterate what Mike said. It's a really fucking rad place, and kind of speaking to you and how special it is for you to see music. Another thing that you're really into is definitely traveling out for some music festivals and stuff, to which you bring copious amounts of craft beer.
Yeah. And that's kind of changed a little bit, just based on getting a little bit older and maybe not camping as much at them. Just because physically, it's the main one I go to is in Scranton. It's called the Peach Music Festival. It's largely like a jam band fest, and you basically camp on a ski slope. It's a physical grind to camp there. It really is. And I'm old, man. I can't handle that. So
I'm not as old, and I wouldn't want to do that.
So my brother and I, we go, and we've gone every year but one of them since 2012. Last year and this year, we've elected to hotel it. It's just more comfortable for us. It's easier. We'll still bring some beers with us. We'll hit up. There's some local breweries in the area. We'll hit those up. Any way we can support the local businesses, that's what we'll do. We'll hit up local restaurants when we can. I know my brother loves himself some Waffle House, but we'll also hit up some local places as well.
I've yet to try the beauty that is Waffle House.
You haven't ever had Waffle House?
No, and we drove by a Waffle House. We've driven by quite a few Waffle House. I think we drove by some Waffle House when we were in Texas, which we didn't go to. And I think we drove by a couple when I was out in Arizona a few years ago with Sarah for the holidays. But no, I have not been there. I have a horrible intolerance to eggs, and obviously it's Waffle House is a breakfast place, and
Yeah.
eggs play a very important role in that. So don't know, and I'm sure because it's Waffle House, it would be double worse as to what it would do to my stomach.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there, man.
What eldritch horrors would crawl out of my anus, but
Yeah.
no, I have not tried that yet. But I have been to a few music festivals. We actually went to a music festival together. We went to the what was it? The Carolina Rebellion, which was as I like to refer to it, as a Monster Energy drink music festival. It was a lot of pretty big metal bands, a lot of like new metal, metalcore, and then just some like strange additions like Cheap Trick.
There was definitely like some hard rock involved.
Yeah, some pretty corny hard rock too.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
you're going just straight right at me, aren't you?
What Godsmack?
No, I was gonna say one of my biggest an artist that I'm a huge fan of was right.
Look, listen. I mean, when I think of corny, I was actually.
I mean, a lot of people are gonna think, yeah.
I was actually not thinking this just because I have so much joy of the memory of this that it kind of surpasses like how goofy it is.
I mean, Sammy Hagar is pretty damn corny.
Oh yeah, dude, he's a fucking nut.
I mean, he does a lot of songs about love.
I know.
But man, do I love me some Sammy Hagar. He's got a great voice. He's a lot of fun. Despite Dylan not wanting to have any fun seeing Sammy Hagar, he's a lot of fun.
He has a rad band. I'll say that much. He had a pretty rad band.
He does, man. He has Jason Bonham on drums. That's all you fucking need.
His guitar player too. I don't remember who he was, but he was awesome too.
Oh shit, he's got a guy named Vic Johnson.
I think that was him.
Oh, it definitely was. He's been Sammy's guitarist for like 25 years now.
I mean, I have video evidence of it, but like when he was playing Mas Tequila, I mean, come on, like I cannot. There's no way that memory could even be eroded from my memory because
you wouldn't even like. I mean, you wouldn't even sing along with the song, man. It's just he does these songs that are just like fun. You just got to get into a groove and just have fun, man. And you're just sitting there. I'll just take video of Mike having a great time.
I don't remember what state of being I was in at the time. Clearly, I wasn't enjoying it because in my brain, I'm like, this must have been so much fun.
Oh God, man. It was even with it being like a festival set, like 80, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
It was probably my favorite 80 to 90 minutes of that entire fucking weekend.
Yeah, that was a mishmash of bizarre, strange. I mean, those festivals, I'm glad they're kind of like, I mean, they do seem to be like still exist. They're just like rebranded as like a certain like, you know, like I don't know. There's like a
you said like Monster Energy drink or whatever, like fucking corporate sponsor wants to put their name on it. That's who's sponsoring it this year. Like I saw an announcement for one like in I think it was somewhere in Kentucky, like I think Louisville, Kentucky or something. I just saw
like Louisville Rock or something like that.
Yeah, and it's whatever company wants to put their name on it, they'll sponsor. I had a great time at the thing. Don't get me wrong. I was kind of thankful, like we'd stick around for like a couple of songs of like some of the headlining bands, and then the other people we were with were like, "Yeah, let's get out of here." I'm like, "All right, I'm fine with that. I'm tired anyway." We've been there the entire fucking day. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we skipped out like on Slipknot, like maybe 2-3 songs in.
Oh, we were also like a mile away. Like this thing was at like a racetrack.
That was okay though. I didn't have a problem with that because we had we bought those VIP tickets and we had that whole lounge thing to ourselves.
Yeah, that was
great.
Good.
That was awesome.
I've got VIP tickets to a festival coming up in May, the Maryland Death Fest, and I'm sure I'll talk about this in the regular podcast at some point, but you know, as what is to happen at this, you know, time, you know, people are coming and going, they're dropping off for, you know, a fucking variety of reasons, whatever it is. They're anti-vax, they're, they're having trouble just like keeping their bands together, whatever it is, they can't get into the country because they're international. So they've been changing a lot of stuff. Now, so far, knock on wood, all the bands that have had to drop off largely hasn't affected my interest. It's like there's enough heavy hitters that I'm like, this is good for me. And as it's kind of been like whittled down and I've looked at the schedule, I've got VIP tickets and I'm basically camped out at a main stage for the bulk of the weekend. I don't have to go anywhere, which is great because it is in Baltimore and I've heard it's, a little bit sketchy. We'll see how it goes. But that's good that I just can just kind of like chill with my fucking like concert print and 2 free beers and then start paying like $22 for like a 16-ounce beer. But yeah, hopefully that'll just be like a nice kind of convenient experience where it's like I can kind of just chill here and hang out and have a good view of the bands. But I have been to a few other fests at this point. Obviously we've been to Dark Lord Day, which is a heavy metal craft beer fucking extravaganza. The first year we went, I got fucking incredibly drunk, like aggressively drunk. Don't remember most of what happened, but you certainly do. Some really questionable things I did that day. I didn't really engage with the music aspect of that festival until I went back to it. I skipped it one year, and then I was like way more into a lot of the bands that were playing that, and I wanted to check them out. Quite a few of them, including Nuclear Assault, of which Danny Lilker also works at Record Archive in your hometown.
Yeah. He's helped me out a bunch over the years at the store. It's funny you say that, though, because I remember, I think that year, like when you actually stuck around at the festival and we all went back to the hotel.
Yeah, I did. And I was like fucking having like horrible diarrhea like the whole day. It was terrible.
Like in a Porto? Or in the Porto?
Oh. Yeah, it was
That's
awful.
never a good thing, man.
No, it was terrible. The only perk of it was that it started downpouring and I just like sat in the porta potty for most of the rain, which was okay.
And like shit your brains out while the rain was happening?
Yeah. Oh. So it was downpouring on 2 levels.
Wow. Ugh.
But yeah, I did stick around for the bands later on in the day. I got to see this band, Minsk. They were really good. They did one song because they were like, well, we really wanted to play, but we don't have any time. We have to keep it on schedule. So they did one song, and that was rad. I saw Nuclear Assault, Sacred Reich, and personal favorite of mine, High on Fire. But I had to vacate that set because I had to catch the bus back. But from what I understand, they actually pulled the plug on them before their set was over. So I don't know if High on Fire is ever going to play that festival again.
Well, I could imagine. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a curfew because, I mean, they're not like exactly like where they have this festival. I mean, it's a beer event with music, basically. It's in the middle of like this town. It's not like it's at like a music venue or anything like that. It's
not even on the outskirts of a town where
there's got to be. I know there's houses like around that area, and they probably have noise ordinances that like those bands would just fucking decimate.
Oh yeah, it's like some of the bands that have played there are just insanely loud. Like, and they're bands that I've seen full sets of at St. Vitus. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's funny you had me on this podcast. I remember, I think I was walking around with you one of the years, and we stopped at the music tent, and I was listening for maybe about 30 seconds, and I was like, I think I'm good. or maybe it was with Brother Sean. I don't know which, but I remember I just kind of stopped and went, okay, I think I'm good with this.
Yeah, you're just like, I'm not really digging goat horror right now. But I mean, I've been to Psycho Las Vegas, and that's a huge music festival, but obviously it's in Vegas. You have all the accommodations of a hotel with a nice fucking bed and all that stuff. I've been to a couple in New York, which have been fun, but definitely nothing as like I've never been to Coachella. I've never been to any of those big festivals, which has like the camping aspect to it. But like, I don't know, that stuff is like just never been appealing to me really. And it just, I gotta
say a nice bed makes late night jams all that much more palatable. Like when you can go back to a hotel and sleep it off for 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
after the jam ends at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, it makes those late nights feel all that much better because like you're like, okay, I think I can hang with this and then go back and sleep for several hours until you get up the next day and have to do it all over again, starting at noon or 1 o'clock.
It's always like, I feel like the mantra for a lot of these festivals, like regardless of what it is, I remember even when I was a kid and we were going to like pop punk fests, and those were like, it's Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. And a lot of these festivals now have gone from like a Thursday, or from like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday to like a Thursday to Sunday event. And usually the Thursday is like a warm up day. You get like kind of a smaller bill in the evening. And then I feel like almost everybody's festival journey usually tracks the same way. If there's a Thursday event, you might go, you probably have a good time, meet some cool people, you call it a day. Friday rolls in, you're fucking on, you're lit, you're excited, you're great, you're happy to be there, you want to check out the bands, there's some fucking heavy hitters, you're like, yeah, you go out and you party all day, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day, you're like, I feel kind of shitty, but it's Saturday and I got to feel fucking good and everything. And then you go really hard, but you did wake up a little bit later because you were like, I need to sleep a little bit. And then Sunday, you're waking up a little bit even later. Like, I don't really need to go to this because you've been going pretty fucking hard. And then the second wind comes inevitably on Sunday. And somehow you're able to power through into like 1 o'clock, 2 in the morning. And you're like, oh man, I got a flight to catch in about 5 minutes.
What's funny is like, yeah, like you say, like the Thursday thing. Initially, when we were going to the one in Scranton that we go to, it was the first year was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Sunday ended early. Like it ended by like 4 o'clock or something like that, right?
Oh wow,
yeah. And then they added Thursday on, but Thursday was like the warm up day, right?
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden Thursday expanded where the bands would start at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it would go on till like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there. And then it expanded, and the bands would start at 2 o'clock on Thursday, and they would go till 2 in the morning. And then it expanded, and they would start at noon on Thursday, and it basically just became a full day on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they expanded. And now I'm seeing ones where Thursday's just a full day and Wednesday's the warm-up day. Oh so I'm projecting like where like it's just gonna end up being like where they just do a whole week. Because that's where it's gonna end up being. It's fucked up, man. It's just like you'll just go Monday to Sunday eventually.
I know, but like when is like man, like I used to go to CMJ a lot in the city here, which was a music festival, and it was mostly about like college radio. It was College Music Journal, and it had to do with college radios. And I went to that, and that was CMJ week. But CMJ week went from Tuesday to Sunday, but Tuesday to Wednesday was a lot of like panels and like informational things and stuff that you would go to during the week, and like not necessarily everybody's going to go to it, whether you're on the college radio, you're in the industry, blah, blah, blah. And then you have stuff in the evenings. And it was all kinds of shit. It was all over the city. And they coordinated and marketed it. It catered to everybody's schedule. You like heavy metal? Here's an entire fucking heavy metal. Here's all the list of the heavy metal bands. Well, you don't like metalcore? Here's all the bands that aren't doing metalcore. You don't like stoner metal? Here's all the ones that are doing this. You want to go see indie rock? You can go see this. You want to go see Jay Mascis? You want to go see fucking whoever? I went to go see Gary fucking Newman. It was awesome. Like that was so rad. And I went to a metal thing the next night, and someone was like, "Oh, what'd you do last night?" I'm like, "I went to see Gary Newman." He's like, "You would see like Gary Newman, like the guy who did Cars?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's kind of weird," and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That dude's like a legend. Like I couldn't believe that dude was so brazen to poo-poo Gary Newman.
Gary Newman? Do you mean Randy Newman?
No, Gary Newman.
Oh.
Like Cars, Gary Newman. You know that song? In Cars. You don't know that song?
I don't know if I know it now. I was thinking Randy Newman for some reason.
No, absolutely not. Randy fucking Newman.
I think you said Cars. I was like, wait, like the cartoon.
You mean like the guy who did like girlfriend and me, like the fucking Toy Story guy?
You got a friend in me.
No,
that's what
oh
I
my
thought.
god!
I thought you just maybe came up with like the wrong first name, and I'm like, I was like,
oh god, Randy Newman headlining Psycho Las Vegas.
You know what? This is probably our first. Randy Newman has never come up on the Diarrhea of Doom.
I don't know. I feel like maybe we made a crack about him at some point. Oh man, he's fucking annoying as hell. That's my Randy Newman impersonation. Anyway, but I dig a good music fest, and I know that you've got this one coming up. I know that you've got the Peach Fest coming up, and I know that. Something that I also like can kind of relate to is them holding on to their lineup releases. I know that's something that Peach, like they just were like sitting on their lineup for a long time. And one of the, when it finally came out, one of the bands that was announced, I don't know, maybe if it was announced like prior to, just to like elicit some excitement for it, was the Black Crowes. And a band that I've miraculously, but not like miraculously, I think it kind of makes sense that I've been able to hip you to, that I listen to, is the band Earthless. Yeah. And one of the DNA strands that connects our musical taste is that Izzy the fuck is his last name?
Isaiah Mitchell.
Isaiah Itchy Isaiah Izzy Mitchell is also a supporting guitar player for the Black Crowes, which is a band that I was like kind of into in high school, but not really outside of one album probably, which I'm sure you can guess. I don't even know which one it is. It's whatever album that has the song Remedy on.
Oh,
you gotta give me some of that remedy.
Oh God, I was hoping that you were gonna do a Black Crowes. I was just hoping. I was sitting here for the last minute going, man, tell me he's gonna do a Black Crowes imitation. But I want to go back for a second. Can I go back?
Yeah, totally.
So like you were talking about like the festival announcement, right? And I love this aspect of this because it happens every year, and you could probably relate to this, right? So you get all these mouth breathers that are like, when's the lineup coming out? Jesus Christ! They announced it last year. It was in December. Where's the fucking lineup? It hasn't come out yet. Why haven't they released it yet? Finally, they released the lineup, right? 5 minutes. This lineup fucking sucks. Why? This is so different from last year. Why couldn't they have more of the same bands that played last year on it? Yeah, I know I complained about the lineup last year at this time, but Jesus Christ, I wish it was like it was last year. God, this festival is so much better 6 years ago.
And week of, hey, is anybody selling their 4-day pass?
Yeah, that's festival lineups in a nutshell for you.
Yep, I mean, yeah. I can relate.
I've definitely seen the festival. Guaranteed.
Yeah, actually, I'll say that right now is that another festival that's also happening in May is Desert Fest New York, which I guess at this point is like the East Coast answer to what Psycho Las Vegas was at one point. Desert Fest has also been going on for like 10 fucking years in Europe, and they had their first one in New York in 2019, and then it got bumped back 2 years, obviously because of the pandemic, and that's coming up. And, they put out their final lineup announcements, and, I'm stoked. It's a lot of bands that have probably played the festival before overseas, but it's cool to see all these bands on the lineup, and I'm fucking excited. And it's like just, a 30-minute car ride from me. So I'm amped for it. But you got all these people that are just like, how come Desert Fest isn't being held in the desert? And it's like, are you fucking serious, bro? Like, do you think Berlin is in the fucking desert?
I was about to say, meanwhile, you just got people going. Where's the sand?
Where's
The camels.
Where's the desert?
I don't know why I gotta hold my hands over my mouth when I do that, but it just seems like the mouth breathing, I feel, is like it's a thing, right?
Or just keyboard warriors, whatever you want to call it, just like pissed off people.
Well, they're mouth breathers.
They just got nothing better to do than waste your time, you know. Meanwhile, you have everybody who's like just fucking amped to go there, and I know that for anybody that's complaining, like, oh, why is this in the desert? Half of them are buying tickets and going to it anyway, and the rest of us don't give a shit because we're just going to be there and having a good time.
I'd be like, wait, I thought this was Dessert Fest. Where's the cake?
You know what? I really should have commented that and been like, wait a minute, where's the cake?
But to answer your question, the second album of the Black Crowes had Remedy on it, the Southern Harmony and Musical Companion.
Okay. All right. That's good to know.
Which, by the way, you would probably hear that song at Peach Fest, but they're also, like, they're touring, and they toured last year and this year. They're doing the full, it's going to make me really feel old, and they intended to do this in 2020, the 30th anniversary celebration of their debut album, Shake Your Moneymaker. So they're playing that in its entirety.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's definitely a thing that people like to see bands do, especially at some of the more curated festivals, particularly for heavy metal, for sure. It's like, oh, play this, you know, because most of the time bands are like, we want to play the new stuff to keep people interested, and we'll break out some, you know, of the classics. But I think people, you know, it kind of is like, would you do this? And they're like, yeah. Most of the time they're down with it. It's pretty cool. But, you know, as I was alluding to before, Izzy Mitchell is a touring guitar player for the Black Crowes. I remember like finding that out, and I mentioned that to you, and I was like, Mike, you should check this band out. I think you would like them. You know, it's not a lot. It doesn't sound like the other, you know, they're not really even like a metal band, really, you know, but it doesn't sound like a lot of the other stuff that I listen to. And
well, it goes back further than that, though.
Yeah.
You actually sent me and co-host Jim of our other podcast, you sent us like a Spotify playlist. Like,
yeah, I did do that.
Maybe a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting at home and I was like, all right, I'm going to put this on. And I listened to it.
I think maybe we had like intended to record an episode of Diarrhea Doom with you guys, and then it just never happened.
Maybe. And that doesn't shock me because, I mean, well, Jim being Jim. The thing about it is, and I think then you ultimately also sent me a copy of one of their albums, is this band really stood out to me in all of the bands that you had put on this thing. And I mean, there was, I don't even know how many songs were on this thing.
Probably like 20, 25.
Yeah, I was going to say 15 to 20, somewhere in that range. But they really jumped out at me, and I just went, man, these guys are like very cross genre. Like they hit on a lot of different things that I was hearing it, and I was just going, man, there's so much stuff going on here, so many things happening, that I was really kind of enthralled by them, and kind of took like a bit of a deeper dive into them after that.
Yeah, like I had kind of known about them. I actually found out about them from someone I made friends with at a concert. I went to go see this band Royal Thunder, and I just started talking to this dude, Jeff. Turns out he lived like in the town next over from me, gave me a lift back. You know, he's like, oh, are you going to any? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to this Earthless show. He's like, oh, I love Earthless. And so we rode in to the city to go see them together. And like, I like kind of had listened to them sort of like peripherally. Like I put them on. I was like, oh yeah, I dig this band. I should go see them. And they were fucking incredible when I saw them. I'll kind of get, I guess, into it a little bit more. And I really like got really hooked in that. And that was really when I was sinking my teeth more into stoner metal and doom metal and whatnot. Which is funny I say that, because I keep saying that they're really not that kind, like they are that kind of a band, but they're just, that's not ever how they like viewed themselves when they put the band together. They're not potheads. They're not like drug addicts. You know, they're pretty active musicians in other projects. You know, obviously Izzy's in the Black Crowes. The drummer Mario Rubalcaba, he's in Rocket from the Crypt and like Off, which is a punk like super group with Keith Morris, who did vocals for Black Flag. And I don't really know what their bass player Mike Eggington does. I think he's a tattoo artist or something. I really don't know. Like, they don't dive that much into their like, you know, personal lives, and that's fine. Getting back into them again, they're such a fucking rad band. And I think the thing that also helped was they have like a section in this documentary, Such Hawks, Such Hounds, where you find out about them and they start talking about these bands that I've never even fucking heard of. And I'm like, you know, like Sir Lord Baltimore and like these sort of like lost hard rock bands from the 70s that they just never really succeeded. You know, they kind of put out a few records and then they sort of like faded into obscurity, and sort of with the boon of the internet and, you know, word of mouth, people found out about them and sort of birthed this entire new subgenre of artists. But that's not to say that that's their only influences, because, you know, Earthless is very much, in as much as it is, you know, owes its allegiance to stuff like those kinds of bands. It also, they're not really a jam band, because I think I read in an interview that the drummer Mario said they're not a jam band in as much as they are more of an improvisational band, because jamming is kind of loose and it can be kind of sloppy and it's sort of like a more deadhead approach to things. Whereas they try to really like hone in on, oh, you're doing this, I got to do this, because they want it to sound good. You know, and that's one strength of the band, is that when they play, and it's not like their songs are short, they play really fucking long, complicated songs. They keep it very, very, very interesting. And there's no vocals. And I like that there's no vocals. I think it just kind of lifts that restraint that you might find yourself under. And it's just like pure musical free. Obviously, there's some songs. They do some covers, and we'll kind of get into how that plays. But for me, like, they're a consistently like pretty amazing band.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, because I feel like they draw on a lot of different genres, and you mentioned the stuff from like the 70s, and I think it's clear that there's definitely like an homage or like a reverence for some of the psychedelic bands of that era. In a lot of their imagery and a lot of stuff that you see like in their presentations for their shows and whatnot. So like if you do scope them out on YouTube, you'll see a lot of that, and it really does. I'm sure they probably do the same at their actual live shows, and you probably can corroborate that. You definitely see that influence. I would say, actually, from a jam perspective, they do kind of fall into where there's like this sub genre of jam that I call like, and I've seen some other people refer to it as jam groove, where they kind of hit into like they get into this like pocket, and they kind of get into that pocket with the drums and the bass, and then they kind of work from that pocket into like, and they kind of explore from that pocket into other regions, but they always kind of are in that pocket, but then they kind of go out and they go off in this direction and then go off in another direction, but they're always back, and they bring it back, and then they kind of go back out, and it's really kind of neat. It's kind of interesting to hear. I hear a lot of other bands that do that sort of thing. It might be a little bit lighter and not as heavy, but it's very similar in that regard to some of other bands that I'm really into. So that's kind of what I felt like kind of drew me into their sound, was that they were kind of familiar, but also different at the same time.
Yeah, and it, you know, comes from that they all have clearly different kind of backgrounds, where like Mario is a punk rock drummer, you know, he's got a bit more of a short like, I feel like his drumming, it's not like you listen to Black Sabbath and it's like you know, I definitely feel like he has a very like fast pace, but he has to make up for a lot of room and space to keep the back end going. And I think you know, there's definitely some krautrock influences in there too. Because again, the bass isn't like super distorted, fuzzy. It's like a very hypnotic, very like continuous trance. It's not like fucking weird and strange and jazzy. Like they throw it in there, but they do a lot of work because I feel like Izzy does a ton of fucking like leg lifting in this. Like just the guitar work is so complex and like manic, but at the same time it's like controlled chaos. And I come from starting out my metal interests with like being pretty into like prog metal, and I think it just got to the point where that stuff to me felt like it was just note salad, and it wasn't very interesting. It was just like somebody had their guitar tuned so tightly, and it was just like it just sounded like you were inputting data to a computer to create a guitar thing. There's more life in his guitar work. And you can tell, like when I saw him live, that dude was fucking coated in sweat probably within like 5 minutes. They played a 30-minute song. It just didn't stop. Just did not stop.
It's funny though, like when you say that, but man, you don't even realize it's 30 minutes.
It goes by pretty quick.
It flows. And that's the thing that's kind of like the true testament of it is like, I mean, I see a lot of bands that do stuff like that. But then you look and you're like, and you realize like, if you're listening to it like on a streaming platform or what have you, and you go, oh my God, that was really like 28 minutes long. It didn't feel like that because they got into you yourself, your ears, you get into that groove and you're just listening to it and you're just kind of, you know, feeling it. And you just realize that you get into that groove yourself, and it's pretty remarkable. So there are a few bands that I feel like in the jam scene that kind of do something similar, but it might not be as heavy. Like there's bands that I'm really into, like Dopapod and Spafford and Aqueous is one from Buffalo. That I mean, all of those bands I've heard them, and they will jam out for like 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And it kind of reminds me in a way of what Earthless does, because they kind of get into that groove jam. And you kind of get that feeling of where you're just kind of get immersed into what they're doing sonically. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, and they do a great job at it. I mean, Earthless included in that. They all those bands are. I mean, if you want some bands that maybe that from where I come from that do that like musically, those are the bands I would suggest as far as like a very similar sound from the jam world.
Yeah, and there's countless bands that have come after Earthless that definitely ape their sound a lot. You can just kind of tell. But maybe that's a good way to just sort of to segue into their albums, which I think we could probably get through. I mean, we touched on a lot of the notes specifically about their sound, so we'll probably like get through this. But you know, so I started by, you know, with the beginning with Sonic Prayers. It came out in 2005, but I listened to the 2022 remaster. My first question though is, where were you in 2005, and was something like this even remotely on your radar? Because I was in high school. And for me, the big thing back then was 9 Inch Nails, their comeback with Teeth. So to imagine a band that debuted with 2 20-minute long songs at that time is like, it's inconceivable. And then, you know, I found out about Sleep.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt like the first 10 years of the 2000s was pretty bleak musically, to the point where that like mid 2000s is when I started getting into kind of like some of the blues jam scene, like the Allman Brothers of the world, and some of the subsidiary bands that came out of the Allman Brothers, like Derek Trucks Band and Government Mule, which when I first heard Earthless, I thought Early Mule, because Mule started out as a trio with a really kind of groove bass feel. There are some things that kind of felt familiar when I first started hearing Earthless. Not saying that they were copying anything from Mule, but that it was kind of like, man, I like where this band is going, because it kind of reminded me of early Mule.
Well, frequent collaborator on the show, August West, is also a big Mule fan, so he loves all that shit. I mean, I think he went down to when they did their Sabbath show in Atlanta or something like that.
And no, I wasn't trying to play to August. I was being curious.
Our one subscriber.
Yes. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the Diary of Doom Patreon.
If they're listening to this, they're subscribed.
Tell your friends. Jesus Christ, man. Give this guy some love.
Give me some money.
Well, that's what I meant by love.
Yeah. But so this album was coming out around that time in the early 2000s, and it was a bleak time probably for heavy metal. You know, I mean, new metal was like huge, but the underground metal scene was really starting to brew. The bands that are pretty big now that were big back then, you know, it's been about 20 years since they started it. You know, that was kind of where they were cutting their teeth. So I think it kind of makes sense for a band like Earthless to get lumped in with bands like High on Fire or Weed Eater, who were already on their third or so albums by then, you know, and it's just because those bands had some appreciation for similar influences as the guys in Earthless did. They just didn't play as fucking heavy and sludgy or drunk or fucked up. So they really like also bucked the trend of including vocals, and it gives them kind of a unique experience for fans of the music. So I don't know if it's where they expected to land, but I can tell you that they're probably pretty happy because they have like a really dedicated, and at this point, you know, considering yourself, a growing fan base from it. Furthermore, Lost in the Cold Sun is such a fucking heavy and rad song. And I think it's about as close to like doom or stoner metal that they would do until more recently. So what did you think of this album?
I only got introduced to it from the reissue. I've given the album maybe like one or two listens, but it's weird because like I mean, any of the stuff that they reissued, I kind of listened to all like right in a row. To discern from like one to another is kind of difficult for me from one album to the next. For case in point, for the first three.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was good. I mean, I've enjoyed all of it, but you can definitely see the growth from one to the next.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, well, actually, like I feel that way about the third one, but I'll get there. So like their second album, Rhythms from a Cosmic Sky, again, 2022 remaster, came out in 2007. I felt like they switched things up a little bit, like from their original release. It definitely has a little bit of a hard rock kick to it. I think the thing about them is just, you talked about it before, how like Government Mule started out as a trio. And I think that this band, if they added another member, it would just throw everything off. They're like such a fucking tight power trio.
Yeah. And you know, Mule ultimately did add on another band member, but it really wouldn't fit with what this band is doing.
Right.
Mule added on a keyboard player.
Yeah, they were looking to probably expand their sound and adjust accordingly.
More for like songwriting.
Yes.
As opposed to, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to diminish what this band does as far as songwriting goes, but more for like actual like crafted like vocal songs, like that might be 4 to 6 minutes long, as opposed to like a 30-minute opus, which they didn't really need a keyboard player for.
Right, exactly.
And they have such a full sound already with 3 people.
Yeah. I'll just jump to the next album and then I'll backtrack a little bit, because I think that if someone were to ask where to start with Earthless, I would say start with From the Ages, because I think that album like just defines their sound perfectly. Specifically, and I think that I included this song in the playlist, was Uluru Rock. I think that song pretty much is like, if it's not the definitive song, it's one of their definitive songs. Not that they're like, song library is like gigantic because they do such long songs on such a, you know, kind of short like collection of records, but I think you could put that song on for any devotee of hard rock or jam bands like yourself, heavy metal, prog rock, and they'd be like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. You know, like I guarantee you could run into a bunch of old fucking wooks out there who love the Black Crowes, but one of them is always gonna be like, oh, but Izzy's original band Earthless is awesome, you gotta check them out, man.
Yep. And there were some people like on like a Facebook page I belong to that mentioned like when the Crowes got announced for the festival that, oh, hopefully Earthless is a band that gets added, just because they knew the acumen of him and the rest of this band and how good it would really be. But you mentioned that song, you heard, I'm going to butcher, you heard rock.
Uluru.
Yeah.
This is Swedish Chef.
You mentioned that. Well, some of the first things I listened to and watched after the initial introduction that you gave us to this band was like some shows that they were doing. I think some streaming shows online that were like on YouTube, and I know that was one of the songs that they did. And that blew me away even more so. It was pretty remarkable to like just hear and go, oh my, yeah, these guys are definitely kind of in a genre that I can enjoy, or like a vein that I can enjoy of the genre that they're in. Like it was speaking to me as far as what they were doing.
Now they have quite a few live albums out, but I think they have, this one is just, it's just fucking wild how this happened. They played at the 2008 edition of the Roadburn Festival in Tilburg, Netherlands. It was the 13th show overall of the festival. This is a festival I've been wanting to go to for a few years now, and obviously, you know, the world is preventing me from doing so. And they were originally only scheduled to play to 250 people in the smallest room of the event as the main act. But then they were invited at the last minute to perform as the last act on the main stage to 2,000 people because the scheduled band ISIS had only performed half of their 2-hour slot. Side note, ISIS also had to change their band name, or I think called it quits, because of associations with the terrorist group.
I was gonna say, what they do, get like arrested or something?
No,
they stormed the Capitol. I
mean, no, they were. I believe they took their name from, you know, Egyptian mythology or whatever that's from, and yeah, you know, just. It was an unfortunate coincidence. Let's put it that way. So Earthless wound up, you know, taking over for the remainder of time, and they performed for about an hour and a half, and we're not even aware that the performance had been recorded. But then I guess the festival runners sent it over to TP Records, and they requested to release an album based on their performance. They liked the recordings a lot, and Earthless was down with it, and they wound up releasing a live Roadburn album, which is fucking amazing. I can only imagine like what a fucking honor it would have been to be a fan of that band or even a newcomer to that band, and to find out that they were just going to be playing this completely, they weren't prepared to do this. We're going to be playing this special set for you. And now it's being recorded. Like, what a fucking cool thing it would have been to be there for that event. Like, that's so fucking rad to me. Humorously, too, the drummer Mario noted that it's the most honest representation of Earthless that you're going to get on record, and said that if listeners did not like the album, they would not like to see the band perform live. Which, like, you know what? Hats off to him if he's just like, this is what it is. And if you don't like that, just do not fucking show up.
That's an endorsement of sorts.
But all that being said, I think that they've remained pretty consistently great, you know, since then. That probably really helped put them on the map. I'm kind of interested in what you thought of some of the last 3 albums, because one of them is just 2 songs and it's like relatively short, but they're both like 13 minutes long or whatever, which was Acid Crusher, Mount Swan. I thought that was a bit more bluesy and psychedelic than some of the other stuff.
Oh, I haven't actually listened to that. Is that the one that they did where it was like another band on it or something? Or am I confused?
I don't know. I don't believe so. I don't know. I think that one's pretty good too. My least favorite one is probably Black Heaven, which came out in 2018. And it's not that it's like bad. It's just that it has vocals, and it kind of feels like maybe they were trying to get in with the current crop of the retro rock artists. I don't know.
Okay, so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because this album is far different than anything they did prior or after. It is it's so weird. It feels like it's like a different band almost. Like you mentioned the vocals and everything, and I don't have an issue per se with vocals, but it was very interesting, like that they went like in a totally different direction than like what they had previously released, and then what they've released since. And this was actually, you sent this to me as like a Christmas gift.
I wish I sent you a different one. I think that maybe that was the only one available.
It was the only, you had said that afterwards that I think you had hoped to do From the Ages. It's funny though, because like I was like, oh, that had, when I listened to that, I went, that it kind of almost cemented even more like my thought of Government Mule, because of the vocals and everything. I was like, oh man, they're kind of going down that path. But it's not bad. It's just, it's incredibly different.
I don't know. And also just a little bit of context from my world. It was a really big for doom and stone and sludge and that kind of subgenre. It really hit a peak. Like everybody was firing on all cylinders. And it got kind of buried by a lot of these other big bands like Yob and Sleep and Windhand and High on Fire. I don't know. It definitely didn't stand out against a lot of the other stuff that was coming out at the time, which I feel kind of glad that when they said there was a new one coming out and that it came out pretty early this year. I thought the new album, Night Parade of 100 Demons, was fucking awesome. I mean, it really felt like they got back to their roots, like their heavy roots, but they kept pushing the band in a different direction. There's no vocals. It's got like a very, like the first track has a very airy David Gilmour approach with synth and light drums that garnish the guitar work, and then it gets heavy as hell. There's a lot of Sabbath in it. It's really good. Like I felt like they abandoned like the heavy riff thing pretty quickly in terms of more like loose psychedelia and stuff like that. And I felt like this was like a nice coalesce of all of those sounds and getting back to them. I also like that they switched up their artwork. It looked, they went with this more like Japanese Asian folklore vibe that the bass player drew that. Like he spent a very long time drawing that whole piece. I don't think he, in an interview, I believe he said, I don't think I got 100 demons in there, but there's quite a few of them in there. And it's really, really fucking cool bit of work that he did. So I really like this album.
Yeah, this one was pretty good. I liked kind of like how it opened, and then it kind of just like it kind of opens a little bit slow, and then it just all of a sudden it kind of just shifts into that groove. And like the rest of the album, they're kind of just dialed into that groove, and it fits, man. It really does work well for them.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was a great return for them. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming this is a band that if you had the opportunity to see, you probably would not miss, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The hope is that with Isaiah Mitchell playing with the Crows, that one of the other announcements that come for Peach Fest is that he actually he brings the rest of Earthless with him, and they play a set at some point during that festival. So there's hopes that might still happen, because there's more bands to be announced, which I'm sure some of those mouth breathers will complain about.
Well, I hope that they come back to New York, because I missed them the last time they rolled through town. I was on vacation for my birthday, my month-long birthday.
Yes.
So I didn't get a chance to see them. But seeing them at St. Vitus was fucking awesome. And actually, their bass player was not with them at the time. So they had this guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy that filled in for them was a dude who had played a lot with Bob Weir. Is it Weir or Wire?
Weir.
Well, anyway, yeah, Earthless rules. And
can I point one thing out to you? I don't know if you've seen this album or not. One of their other live albums called From the West.
I haven't listened to it, but I've seen it. Like, I've seen it on Spotify.
From August West, maybe?
No, I don't believe so.
From the West. My favorite thing about it is up in the upper corner there.
The radiation symbol?
No, the other corner. They actually printed on a price sticker. That's not like a price sticker from the store I got it at. That's literally printed on the cover.
Oh, is it really?
Yes.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. I like that. And that's actually, I bought it off of Amazon. That's how much it cost.
That's pretty fucking rad.
Yeah.
But I think we'll do a quick, to close out here, we'll do a quick round of Finding Jesus with Skillet. And Mike, if you don't know anything about the band Skillet, that's okay. They're a really fucking corny Christian rock band who the frontman, John Cooper, is kind of a fucking strange, weird dude. And, you know, he writes songs about loving Jesus. So what I've been doing is finding Skillet songs, looking at the lyrics, deciding that these lyrics are pretty funny based on a very perfunctory glance. And I don't listen to the song, and I don't expect that you've listened to them either. This is probably not a band that's been on your radar much of your life at any point in your life.
Can't say that that I'm familiar with them now.
So we're gonna listen to this song and read the lyrics, and we'll have a good laugh about it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards and see how we feel see if we find Jesus with this guy. I'm just gonna make sure this is a good video here. I'm gonna drop this in because I didn't say what the song was before. The song is Heaven in My Veins by Skillet. Oh my god, is this really... Oh no, this this can't be what this song actually sounds like. Oh no. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Oh my fucking god. This is insane. I don't think you're actually going to believe that this is how this song begins. You're just going to be like, oh, this is like an ad for it. But here we go. That's the song. I feel like I'm in a video game.
Oh.
Ah, heaven. Your locally prescribed drug.
Did like Kirk Cameron have anything to do with this?
Jesus.
I feel like I need some hot cocoa.
What do you need?
He needs it in his veins, yeah. Okay, so, I mean...
All right, we'll pause for a second here.
Man, I don't know if it's like just if it plays that awfully like over like the app that we use, or is the sound really that bad on the song?
I do believe that this is, I mean, I lowered the volume a little bit, but like so when this song started and it started with the like, let's be honest, video game sound effect, I thought it was just like an ad for this guy's channel. And I went to another video, but nope, this is how the song starts.
Okay. And you know how we were talking about how bleak early 2000s music was? This sounds like one of those early 2000s music, like songs from like new metal or whatnot.
Well,
it's horrible.
This came out this came out on August 28th, 2001. So like right there for you.
Wow.
All right, we have to finish this.
Why does the graphic look like a penis?
The graphic in this totally looks like a penis.
Like a very red penis.
Oh, my heart monitor's going crazy. Chugga, 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 chug, chugga, 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 chug, chug. Oh, yeah, I need it.
Yeah, you need it.
I need the song to end. Well, that fucking sucked.
Man, the things you subject me to. I am never going to get that 5 minutes back from my life.
Yeah, I need it. Yeah, I need it. Did you like hear the backup vocalist? So one of the other people in the band is his wife. Did you hear her like singing in the background of that song? She's like, it's very weird. Aren't you glad you didn't get it really into Christian rock, Mike?
I don't know what I would have done.
You would have found God. You wouldn't have had to do anything. Do you need it?
I'm kind of glad. No, I don't. I'm good, thanks.
I mean, I think if you're comparing your love of God with some kind of drug that sounds a lot like heroin, maybe you should like reevaluate your relationship with God. Because it really just sounds like you want to get fucking high. Like, dude, just smoke a joint and don't worry about things. But yeah, another bad offering of music from Skillet. And once again, just fucking repeating the chorus over and over and over again.
Did you literally just have me on an episode of Diary of Doom to just play that for me? Was it all a means to just like fucking torture me with that for 5 minutes?
You're like, your mood is so sour now.
I mean, can you blame me?
No, but come on, man, I need it.
What do you need, like, to just like make your guests suffer? I mean, what is wrong with you?
You're only the second person that's done this.
Oh man. And where's the first person? What happened to them? Are they like in like a rubber room at this point? You're sitting there shaking like in a going, I need it. I mean, what the fuck, dude?
I mean, last I checked, I think she's okay.
You might want to check on her. You may
have.
Oh
man, that's fucking hilarious.
You may have done some irreparable damage to her.
I think I've done irreparable damage to you.
Nah. I mean, that you did that a long time ago, I feel. I mean, God. How long have we known each other?
Long enough that you're now ready to end the friendship. I've got my fill of you, Dylan, but you've shown me Skillet, and that's a step too far.
Nah.
Well, no, we're not going to ever probably go to a Skillet show. We're probably not going to go to Carolina Rebel Alliance and see them headline at the Raceway Park stage or whatever it is. That's a reference for some people out there. But yeah, Mike, thanks for coming on and talking about Earthless. And as always, it's a pleasure to do a podcast with you. And it's a pleasure to do one that's not Jim's BBQ. You know, it's cool to kind of to cut loose and do things. Not that we don't cut loose or farts on Jim's BBQ at all, But it's cool to do these things under a different light, so to speak.
Oh yeah, man. I always have fun doing different podcasts. I mean, honestly, actually, you know what? Other than all the ones that I host, I think this is the first podcast I've ever been invited on.
I don't know what that says about you or myself.
Other than like random ones that we did like while on trips, like with other people.
Yeah,
and I bet they were probably instantly regretting that after we finished.
What are you talking about? We were the best parts of that. We made those podcasts good.
Yeah, but they were probably regretting it.
Probably. I know we were regretting it too.
Maybe a little. But no, man, this was a lot of fun. I enjoy talking music. I know back maybe a year or two ago, we threatened to do with your buddy August, we threatened to do an offshoot podcast called Diarrhea of Jam.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that it'll ever come to fruition. I got way too much other shit going on.
Yeah, probably. Like, I think by the time that you launch a, third or fourth side cast and you're not making any revenue from it, like, so, unlike someone like Kevin Smith, might be time to throw in the towel on those and just reroute the focus.
I wouldn't necessarily say throw in the towel, but maybe just not add more to the plate.
Exactly. Or just do an episode of Jim's BBQ about jam bands.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
Yeah. But not here. This is about as close as, I mean, a lot of this stuff is pretty fucking jammy. Like, I wouldn't say it's the same as, going to see the Grateful Dead or Fish or something like that, because all of these bands don't have the luxuries of being able to noodle for 4 hours. They still play tight sets. They're still touring bands. They still got to be the next city the next day. They're not these like big entities like Fish or Dead and Company and shit like that, where it's like a huge nationally touring act that it's inviting people from all walks of life. It's a bit more niche still, and like I'm sure that Izzy, this entire fucking episode, I had to keep catching myself and not say Izzy Stradlin. And I'm like, that's the fucking dude from Guns N' Roses.
It's like, I never should have left GNR.
Izzy Stradlin now headlining Earthless. But yeah, I mean, these bands are still, they're a bit smaller. They're still touring and they just kind of operate under the different rules that jam bands don't get to, There's not going to be any fucking Andy Frasco bullshit going on here.
What? Oh man, Andy Frasco, man, that could be a podcast unto itself. Actually, he does his own podcast.
That does not surprise me at all.
That fucking dude is crazy.
I totally believe it.
If you ever go see Andy Frasco, if you're listening to this and you ever go see Andy Frasco, bring some shrooms for him. You'll be his new best friend.
But Mike, where can people find you if they're so inclined to do so?
Oh my God. I mean, where do you start? I mean, obviously you start at our main podcast, Jim's BBQ Pod. That you can find that at facebook.com/Jim's BBQ Pod. Man, I had that like queued up, don't I? And then if you're into professional wrestling, you can check my brother and I out. We're over at Wrestling World Order Podcast. We got a Facebook page, we got a website. You can get the podcast wherever you may get podcasts from. And then my wife and I, we do like a snack food podcast, video podcast called Willing Snackrifice. Check that out, man. It's a lot of fun. If you're into seeing foods from all over the world, we like to try them and snack on them. Dylan's been a guest on that one. He can attest to how much fun that one is.
I've also been a guest on w.W.o about wrestling movies, and it's been a lot of fun. I love watching terrible movies. I don't love all of the terrible movies, but it's almost always a fun experience to talk about them.
Yeah. Coincidentally, there is a lot of terrible movies with professional wrestlers, or uncoincidentally, right? Or
yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's a word, but
it is right now. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you go check that out, you definitely hear me pop up there. Maybe I'll have Mike back on to do a future episode on something coming up down the road. We'll, if he has time in his busy schedule.
Oh, dude, you got to give me another band, man.
I got to give you another band?
Yeah, give me another band to check out.
All right, we'll definitely have you back on to examine another one of these bands. But yeah, you can hear me at Jim's BBQ2 whenever it comes out. And if you want to check out more of Diary of Doom, diaryofdoom.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, diaryofdoom.podbean.com. If you want to support the podcast directly, you can listen to it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And obviously, Patreon. Tell everybody about that. Tell them to subscribe.
August, tell everybody to subscribe to the Patreon.
Yeah, August, come on. You're the only one.
Tell the fishes to subscribe.
Tell the fishes. I don't even think he likes fish that much.
No, the fishes. He fishes, man.
Oh, those fishes.
Yes, the fish.
The fish people.
The fishies.
Tell the fish people to subscribe.
Tell the fellow fishermen.
Yeah. But you can find all the Diary of Doom stuff there. Go check out the YouTube channel. Going to be uploading some videos. It's nothing amazing, but if you want to see fucking bunch of Doom bands, some come to grief, go check that out. There's also, I made fun of Joe Biden in one of my videos. It's kind of funny. Put a blood incantation over one of his speeches. Guy's kind of a fool, but it was kind of funny. So anyway, that'll do it for this bonus episode of Diary of Doom, and we'll catch you next time.
Rock on, man.